Hello, my name is Cleo Patricic. I'm the co-founder of Save Austin Now. Here I'm coming to you as a victim advocate, a community member, a concerned citizen, a mother. And here in the last few years, I've had either the misfortune or fortune to meet a lot of violent crime victims and murdered victim families. And unfortunately, in talking with a lot of them, they have shared many similar stories and a pattern of callous behavior, plea deals, and other miscarriages of justice that have happened with this district attorney's office. I'm surrounded today by courageous survivors of violent crime and the parents of murdered children. They stand united to shed light on the callous disregard for victims perpetuated by the current leadership in our district attorney's office, helmed by Jose Garza. Garza uses his public platform to claim he supports victims, but anyone who delves into this issue will quickly find otherwise. The victims here today can all attest to blatant deception and bear witness to the pattern of disregard for victims from this DA. Jose Garza has presided over the most destructive administration we have ever seen in Travis County, with over 2/3 of the prosecutors leaving and 7,000 felony cases awaiting justice. Anyone observing the DA's office under Garza knows he is not interested in stopping violent offenders or hearing the heartbreaking stories of so many victims of his failed policies. DA Garza is an activist. Again, DA Garza is an activist who has shown no compassion for those impacted by crime and no interest in the fundamental duty of a DA, which is to prosecute crime. His penchant for plea deals and reckless release of dangerous criminals further underscores his ineptitude and indifference. It's no wonder we have so many accounts of repeat offenders victimizing even more innocent community members. As a lifelong Democrat, I proudly endorse Jeremy Celestine, a fellow Democrat who embodies the values of compassion, integrity, and a steadfast commitment to justice. I now will introduce the victims here that have gathered. First, we have Nick Cantor. He is the brother of Doug Cantor, murdered victim from 6th Street mass shooting.
All right, so, one thing that Cleo touched right here was activism. It's interesting because that never really came to me until just now. And what I want to say about that is, speaking about Garza's activism, when we first met Jose Garza, he told us that he was giving us his best two district attorneys. Eduardo, I'm sorry, I'm butchering their names, and you remember the other one's name? I'm sorry. Okay, so he gave us the best two attorneys. The reason I don't remember their names is because he talked them up, told us that they were the best in his department, his office, and they were going to bring justice to my family. Shortly thereafter, he pulled them off the case because he needed help prosecuting police officers from the riots. Cases that he was never going to win, but in his loyalties lied with his activism and not with my family and getting justice for my brother's murder. And I can't tell you as a victim how re-victimized that makes me and my family feel to have had the false bill of goods sold to us that we were going to get justice, and then it pulled away. Now, the attorney that stepped in for him that he hired out of Travis County, she came from, I believe, Dallas. She did a great job, and we did receive a level of justice, not exactly what we wanted. But fortunately for us, we did get our day in court, and we did get a guilty verdict. And unlike some of the other families behind me, Connie, we spoke a lot. Actually, would you rather speak about your son's issue? I don't want to talk for you. Okay, I'm going to let her talk about what happened, what Garza did to her. You know what? I'm going to step back and let everyone else have it turn. Thank you.
Now, go ahead. While you guys get notes, I'm gonna introduce Rosalia Jaramillo. She is a mother of murdered victim, her son Eduardo Jesus Jaramillo. She only speaks Spanish, so she has a family member here. Every few sentences, he'll translate in English. Señora? Sí, ella, si quieren que lo haga.
Can you put the baby in front?
Ya, gracias. Ahí, aquí en el micrófono. Gracias.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Hello, everybody.
Es muy difícil para mí hablar sobre mi único hijo y solo quiero que tengan en cuenta las personas que son padres aquí.
It's really hard for us to talk about my only son, and I know it's really hard for everybody that is gathered here. We're all here for a reason, and
Solo quiero que las personas que están aquí, que son padres de familia, que tienen sus hijos, que no creo que esta persona merezca estar 4 años más no haciendo justicia por lo que los delincuentes están haciendo en la calle, mientras que nosotros, a mí como madre me han robado mi vida.
it is not fair for us that the people that did this to her son, my nephew, they're out for, the verdict was only 4 years, but it's not fair for them to be out after that, after what they did to us, to our family, to everybody that love Eduardo.
Sí, yo quiero que tengan en cuenta y vean que no está siendo justo con las familias. A cada persona creo que tenemos el mismo valor ante Dios y todos debemos tener una justicia.
Jose Garza is not doing his job. He's, to us, he's not being fair to our families, that we're all victims, that we all suffer the same pain, we all have the same pain.
Quiero que tengan en cuenta, si esta persona sigue en ese puesto, alguna vez que Dios no quiera puede tocar alguna vez a otras familias y va a pasar lo mismo. Él deja salir a los delincuentes, mientras que nosotros nos quedamos con el dolor y él puede, ese delincuente vuelve a hacer lo mismo.
He lets the bad guys go, just like he let this guy go, and there's no justice for the families. And they turn around and do the same thing, just like it happened with my nephew. The guy got caught with the murder weapon, and he was let go a couple of weeks after. And then, like 2 months after, he was out and was put back in jail for possessions of weapons and selling weapons. So it's not fair for anybody to let the bad guys go, and then a couple of months, days after he's out doing the same thing. It's not fair for anybody. For the victims, for families, they're all hurting.
Para mí él es doblemente asesino. Juan Carlos David Sánchez Salinas es doblemente asesino porque me arrebató a mi único hijo, me arrebató la vida a mí. Yo solamente sigo aquí por mi familia, porque yo lo único que quiero es irme por mi hijo.
Juan Carlos took the life of Eduardo, my only son, and the only reason I'm here is because I want justice for him, and my family keeps me going.
Y por eso pido que tengan en cuenta y sé que el dolor tal vez no lo pueden sentir lo mismo como yo, pero tengan en cuenta que necesitamos personas que hagan la justicia. Yo no soy de este país, pero amo este país porque este país me dio el regalo más hermoso que es mi hijo. Y yo amo este país y en algún momento no puedo entender por qué las leyes no han sido justas como este país que se basa en la justicia para todos iguales.
We just want people that do justice, like this country says, justice for all, but Jose Garza is not doing that. He's letting everybody go. And it hurts me. Like everybody, all the families here, we're hurting because they took the life of my only son and justice not being served.
No, para mí no veo justicia por mi hijo porque aunque el detective hizo su mejor trabajo, para mí hizo un trabajo muy bueno en todas las investigaciones y solamente él lo condenó por asalto agravado y no lo condenó por quitarle la vida a mi hijo.
The jury was, they only gave him 4 years for aggravated assault. He was caught with a murder weapon, and only was charged for aggravated robbery, not murder.
Solo quiero pedir a la gente que, pues, que no le dé su voto y tenga en cuenta que no ha sido justo con las personas que hemos sido víctimas y el dolor sigue con cada uno de nosotros. No sé el caso de las personas que están aquí, pero el dolor nunca se va a ir, el dolor es irreparable.
All I want is for people to know, don't vote for him, take him out of office, because all the families here, we're all suffering the same thing, and we all want the same thing. We want justice, and he's not giving us justice.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Now I have Connie Branham. She's the mother of a murder victim, her son, Christopher Branham.
As Cleo said, my name is Connie Branham. I'm Christopher Branham's mom. My son was jumped, robbed, very brutally assaulted, and murdered on June 24th, 2020 by a group of 5. That assault is on video. After the robbery and assault, 2 of them drove him to Maynard and shot him in the middle of a cornfield. After my son, broken bones and all, jumped from their moving vehicle. The corn was very tall. It took 37 days of searching to find his body, and when he was found, he was partially mummified. The night he was found was the first night I was able to get more than 2 hours of sleep in over a month. Having a child go missing is devastating. The police had put together a rock-solid case, and all 5 were arrested and indicted, 2 for capital murder and 3 for aggravated robbery. 1 was a juvenile. In May 2021, Dave Garza gave the juvenile, who was on video stomping on my unconscious son's head, a plea deal for less than 1 year in an unsecured facility. They escaped a few months later, but the DA's office withheld that information from my family. We found out they had escaped from a random online search. The juvenile died in a car accident on October 14th that year, our son's birthday. The 4 adults, May 2022, DA Garza outright dismissed aggravated robbery charges against 1 of the adults, who was also on the assault video. My family was not informed until after the paperwork was signed, although Garza had committed to personally involving us in any big decisions, and this certainly was a really, really big one. In September 2022, Garza offered one of the murderers a plea deal for 14 years for murder. We were informed of this by an assistant district attorney. The paperwork was signed before we could make it to the courthouse. While waiting for him to plead guilty, Trudy Strasburger displayed empathy for the killer, not us, mentioning it was difficult for him, but that we should be happy that he was taking responsibility for murdering our son. I replied to her that anyone guilty of murder would jump at a 14-year plea deal, especially since the indictment was for capital murder. The lead victim's advocate, Neva, at the time, defended Jose Garza's actions. On Wednesday, October 12th at 11 a.m., DA Garza simply informed us that he had made 2 additional plea offers, and they had accepted. He gave the 3rd one that had been indicted for aggravated robbery a plea deal for 13 years for robbery, not aggravated robbery. Although a trial date was scheduled for 5 days later, DA Garza offered the other murderer a plea deal. That one had also been accepted 5 days before trial. The witnesses had already been notified. We were informed that sentencing for those last 3 was happening the very next day, October 13th at 9:15 a.m. We hadn't even received the paperwork for our victim impact statements yet. It says right on top of those forms, that plea deals are to be considered before extending plea offers by the prosecution and by the judge before accepting plea deals. So after 2.5 years of attending hearings, and we attended every single one for all of them, we received the paperwork at 10:35 the evening of October 12th, the day before sentencing. We had been working on a charity event in memory of our son, which was planned for that Friday, October 14th, and Garza was very aware of that. He also knew we had friends and family flying in on the 13th. He was very aware of that. He still planned sentencing for that day. We had to stay up the entire night to write our victim impact statements and allocutions. We also took the time in the middle of the night to file some complaints. The next morning, we found out from Fox 7 News that Garza had moved sentencing by a week. Garza had called them to move his post-sentencing interview. He called the media, but couldn't pick up the phone and call my family right before we were getting ready to go to the courthouse. Garza lied about the fact that he would involve us. In addition to my family having to deal with the devastating loss of my only son, Christopher, to murder for the rest of our lives, these lenient sentences result in years and years of us having to prepare for and attend parole hearings. The first one was just a few months after sentencing in early 2023. We had no say in anything. This is how victims and their families are treated by Jose Garza's administration. We don't matter to him, and continues to re-traumatize victims and their families. I have another statement for Christina.
I'm going to introduce Lauren Kleinfelter. She's a victim of physical and sexual assault. She has to go back to work, so I'm going to go ahead and say it.
My name is Lauren Kleinfelter, and I'm here today because February 17th of 2020, me and my two small children, Hannah and Michael, he was 5 at the time, Hannah was 8 months, were victims of a violent kidnapping. We thought that we could entrust our trauma and our safety in Jose Garza and the district attorney's office, and it wasn't long before we felt re-victimized. We were ignored, calls weren't answered. It was a year before I even met anybody from the district attorney's office, and that was only because I demanded it. I ended up having to get a civil rights attorney because I was made to feel that the crime that was committed against me and my small children was my fault. And it was just very hard because at that time, I was forced to move out of my home. I had no help from the victims advocates or the services or anything like that. And it was hard for me. I think the hardest part for me was when he was let go and I wasn't informed. And it was later on that I found out through someone else, I can't really remember who, that he was placed on an ankle monitor. He then cut the ankle monitor off, and me and my children were the last to know. It was probably about a week later when we found out. And I felt betrayed, and I felt scared because it was a week that this person was let free, and I was the last to know. So at that point, I felt like me and my children had become prisoners while he was able to be set free. Here we are 4 years later, and I still have no justice. I have no answers. I have nothing. So it's important for me today, and I'm grateful to be here because today I'm finally getting a chance to get what I didn't get then, and that's a voice and to be heard. And just like the rest of the families, the justice in this is to do away with the injustices of Jose Garza and the things that he doesn't do for us. He doesn't answer calls. He doesn't care about us. And the space that we're supposed to have for healing is a space to be re-victimized and re-traumatized by the things that he promises to do when we entrust him to do that, and he doesn't. Thank you.
Next, we have Christina Byington. She lives out of town, and has health conditions. So Connie, one thing I might say is that this is a group that talks, has bonded over their experiences of trauma, but also being traumatized by this district attorney. So Connie and Christina have become good friends, and she's going to read her statement.
Christina wrote this in the first person, so that's how I read it, because I don't want to change anything. My name is Christina Byington, and I'm speaking out on behalf of the Byington family regarding the 1991 murder of Anita Byington and the reinvestigation of her murder case by DA Garza in his office. Anita's murderer, Alan Andre Causey, was convicted in 1992 and sentenced to 50 years, 50, in prison. In 2022, unbeknownst to the murder victim's family, DA Garza's office began proceedings to have her killer exonerated. Garza's office kept the family in the dark for over a year, while holding secret proceedings in pursuit of exoneration, despite the detailed confession from the killer and numerous other evidence corroborating his guilt. Throughout the process, Garza's office ignored us, I guess hoping we would go away so that they could go through with their exoneration plans with no input or opinion from the family. They lied to us repeatedly. They were dismissive and rude. They did no real investigation. They had a clear agenda to exonerate this killer from day one, no matter what. And astonishingly, the attorneys from Garza's office fought strenuously in court against having Anita's family be allowed to give a statement. So Garza's slogan, which says "sustaining the victims," is just that, merely a slogan. What I've experienced in dealing with Garza's office for the past year is that victims are the last thing Garza actually thinks about or cares about. For me, this is not about politics. This is about right and wrong. I've been a liberal Democrat my entire life, but my experience with Garza's office have caused me to seriously question that stance for the very first time. Lying to a homicide victim's family, ignoring them, dismissing them, that shows a level of disrespect that continues to astound me. DA Jose P. Garza has failed at his job. He's failed real people like myself. He has an agenda which favors criminals and diminishes victims. It's a clear pattern which cannot be denied. If you happen to find yourself or your family member as a victim of violent crime, you will see exactly what I mean. Because you will experience with the DA's office what myself and countless others have experienced: utter failure, disregard, and disrespect. The only real solution right now is for him to be voted out of office so that these travesties may no longer occur. This is Christina Byington's statement.
Mr. Scott?
Hi, my name is Scott Davis. My only daughter, Naomi Riley Davis, was the first homicide victim of 2024. She was killed on New Year's Day. On December 1st, her boyfriend, Martin Rodriguez, was picked up on his third felony weapons charge. He'd also had previous charges for dealing drugs and stealing vehicles. 2 weeks later, my daughter was able to pay an attorney $1,700 to get a $100,000 bond reduced to a PR bond. 2 weeks after that, he put a pillow against her head and shot her because she broke up with him from abuse. The fact that that he is currently being held in Travis County under first-degree murder charges and has cash bond available is shocking to me. I didn't prepare a statement. I just wanted to deliver the facts and let you guys make your own conclusions from this.
So, you guys heard from only a few, a fraction of the population of victims from or of Jose Garza's. He'll tell you that he's standing with victims. He'll tell you that he's doing the right thing by the people of Austin, and he's gonna create a safer Austin and a safer city. The reality is right in front of you. It's not safer. And none of you are safer. And that's the part that I feel like everyone misses, is they see people like myself, I lost my brother, and you see people like the one standing behind me, and you think, oh, well, that's horrible. I hope that never happens to me. Well, if you don't vote Jose Garza out, it probably will happen to you or somebody you know, because it's only a matter of time. The more that Garza refuses to prosecute crime, the more criminals are going to be back out on the street, and they're going to continue to keep committing crimes because they've learned that behavior is acceptable, because Garza's taught them that. So you need to get Jose Garza out of this city and get Jeremy in so that this stops. The cycle has to stop, and it has to stop this election cycle. It can't go on for another 4 years. My name is Nicholas Cantor. Thank you for hearing from all of us.
Okay, now I have Courtney Ford. She's a sex assault victim.
Hi, my name is Courtney Ford. I was a victim of actually domestic violence. No, that's okay. My ex, who I had been living with for 2 years, was beating me most of that time, all the time, severely strangling me. And on May 5th, 2020, it culminated in him trying to strangle me to death while I was completely naked. And he was twice my size, and he almost succeeded. And it was the most terrifying and sad moment of my life. You know, people say that your life flashes before your eyes before you die. For me, it was my family, my little brother and my parents. So many of these people here have lost their own children, and just the thought of making my parents be one of those victims as well, and my little brother, it was heartbreaking. I had to go to the hospital that day, and my assailant was let out. I think it was 2 or 3 days later on bail, on an ankle bracelet. And it took 2.5 years to get any resolution from the DA's office under Garza. He offered, somebody else said it happened to them, he offered my abuser a plea deal behind my back, and had already offered it by the time I heard about it. 6 years deferred adjudication, meaning no jail time unless he commits another serious crime during that time, which I do believe that he will. He is a repeat offender. That said, Jose Garza, you know, looked the other way to the fact that he was a repeat offender. He acted like more of a defense attorney for my abuser than the DA advocating for me. He was advocating more for my abuser. I actually had the opportunity to meet with Jose Garza face to face at one point during the proceedings, and I cried my eyes out to him. I know he has a daughter. I said, what if this was your daughter? Would you feel like this solution, would you feel like she was safe? Would you feel safe? Would you feel like this was justice? This man, my abuser, he said that he was going to kill my whole entire family, torture us, and kill us if I ever reported his abuse. Jose Garza knew this. He saw all these pictures from over the years of me having been beaten. Police had come to our apartment before, and he looked me in the face and just told me he thought it was in the best interest of the community for my abuser to not go to jail, and to be rehabilitated instead, even though there had already been numerous attempts at that in the past. And also tried to convince me that a trial would not find this man guilty, which is ridiculous. As we know, he leans on plea deals a lot. I don't think my abuser even denied strangling me. there were numerous pictures from the hospital records. And yeah, Jose Garza was just callous, again, acting more like a defense attorney than a DA. Spat in my face, basically in the face of all these victims and their families. And I've spent years waiting to be able to have an experience like this and share my experience and expose him for the way that he treated me and my family, because ultimately my family's affected by this too. They're in danger as well. And I'm appalled at the fact that I was terrified that my abuser would only get a year or 2 in jail. No jail time, I was floored. I think any reasonable person would be shocked by that. And that is my story. Thank you so much for listening.
Now we have Courtney Wright. She's a mother of a sex trafficked victim, fentanyl overdose, Desiree Rosado.
Hello. I'm here today because my daughter is not. My daughter is not here because of Jose Garza and the criminals that he lets out. She was my daughter. We don't even live here, and this is how bad it is. We live in Montgomery County, and the policies of this county has affected me and my family forever. I should be at home with my family right now, and instead I'm standing up here addressing Travis County and asking them to please open their eyes because my daughter was killed here. I shouldn't be here right now. I should be worried about my own politics in my own area. My daughter was 17 when she died here. She had a friend here that was her age that lured her here to come hang out and have a good time and all that stuff. The friend even paid for her to get here for her transportation. Upon arrival, my daughter was then handed over to the friend's uncle and given to him. During the time my daughter spent there, which was not long at all, she was beaten by this man, held against her will, intimidated, given drugs to gain even more control over her. She was not allowed to leave. Called the police multiple times to try and report this, was on hold with 911 for over an hour multiple times. To no resolution, to say a police officer will call me back. The police officer did call me back at 3 a.m. when I was sleeping, 7 hours later. I was no longer available. My daughter attempted to flee. Her captors went to the bus station where they found her, picked her up, and drug her back to the house. On May 6th, my daughter was found in Southeast Austin along a walking path by joggers. She was cold to the touch. She was dead. She could no longer be saved. Her body had been dumped there. When I called the police to find out what happened to my daughter, they told me they believe this was an overdose and these things just happen here. That's ridiculous that anybody can believe and tell somebody that this is normal and that this is okay. It's just fine. It just happens here. It shouldn't happen here. This is costing lives. We're coming up on a year now. I have yet to get a single call from Jose Garza or his office. There is strong evidence in this case. They have locations, they have names, they know who did this, I know who did this. They will not even call me. They will not even look me in the face. I have been here multiple times, I've reached out multiple times. The route I've had to take is the federal route, going through the DEA to try to get my daughter justice, because the local government will do nothing. The man that did this to my daughter had already been charged with assault on a family member, not once but twice. The second time was in April of 26 of 23. My daughter died May 6th. This man's wife applied for a protection order against him, knowing what he did to my daughter, and that was denied. They will not even give her protection. Anyone that stands with Jose Garza and his policies needs to be aware of what they are doing, and this is what they are doing. It is not only affecting Austin, it is affecting everyone, like it has my daughter and myself. So if you vote for him, this is what you vote for. All of us are real people. This is what's happened to us, every single one of us. This is not a lie. This is not, let's see, what was it? On October 10th, 2023, Jose Garza stated that he will stand with victims. Where is he? Why is he holding a press conference today when he knew we were going to hold one to speak out? Why did he do that? That's the question. Why isn't he here with us asking what he can do? That's
Now we have Karen Bell. She's a board member for Texans Against Fentanyl of Texas.
That's good morning, but now it's good afternoon. My name is Carrie Lavelle, and I stand before you today not only as a founding board member of Texans Against Fentanyl. We are a 501c nonprofit organization, but also a mother who lost her child due to fentanyl poisoning. While our organization is dedicated to combating the devastating impact of fentanyl poisoning in our communities, we deal with the heart-wrenching stories of our Angel families who have tragically lost their loved ones to fentanyl poisoning. Unfortunately, today, I must bring to your attention the dire situation faced by the victims and their families in Travis County. The Travis County District Attorney's Office has failed to prosecute those responsible for distributing lethal substances like fentanyl. The poor leadership of the District Attorney, Jose Garza, has left many of our Travis County victims without the justice they deserve. And it's through Texas Against Fentanyl that I have witnessed firsthand the devastation brought by this epidemic and the urgent need for action and accountability. One such heartbreaking case is that of 38-year-old John Salem. John, like many others, was grappling with back pain. And as he was seeking relief, he made the unfortunate decision to purchase a pill from someone on social media. Little did he know that that pill would kill him. He fell victim to fentanyl poisoning, and shockingly, the person responsible for his death is being offered probation. John died May 10th of 2022. This drug dealer since then has been shown on Facebook flaunting his machine gun, his stacks of cash, saying he's been dealing since he was 16. He's never been a buyer. He always deals, and he's just purchased a brand new car. His hearing is this March 20th. It's our prayer that this this dealer is not just offered probation. And we need Jose Garza's office to make sure this doesn't happen. I call this murder, and this is an unacceptable travesty of justice that we as a community cannot ignore. This dealer was offered a low bail. Somehow he's hired an attorney. How is he paying for that attorney? I could only guess how, by dealing drugs. Travis County has seen a shocking and alarming surge in overdose deaths. According to 2022 statistical data from the Travis County Medical Examiner, there has been an astonishing 600% increase in overdose deaths between 2020 and 2022. In 2023, there were over 200 fentanyl-related deaths. This is not just a statistic, these are real lives, real families torn apart, and real communities in crisis. The District Attorney's Office's failure to prosecute those responsible for distributing lethal substances like fentanyl is a stark betrayal of the trust and faith that our community places in our justice system. Texas Against Fentanyl calls on the leadership of Travis County to take immediate and decisive action. We demand accountability for those who contribute to the fentanyl crisis, and we urge everyone to please consider the safety of our community when voting for Travis County DA. Jose Garza does not care about our safety, and it's evident through his track record, as seen here. Our mission is to continue to advocate for justice, raise awareness, and fight against this devastating impact of fentanyl in our society. And together we will continue to fight to honor the memories of those we have lost and to prevent further loss and devastation. Courtney, your daughter had fentanyl in her system.
She did. They gave her fentanyl to kill her before they dumped her body.
Courtney is one of our angel families. I'll leave you with one question. If your son, your daughter, grandchild, or any loved one was killed by fentanyl poisoning, what would you want to see? Would you want to see that drug dealer behind bars? Thank you.
I'm going to close with Michael Bullock, the president of Austin Police Association. But they had mentioned the press conference that DA Garza had at 11. We, of course, didn't have anything to do with that. And according to the motorcycle group member, he has repeatedly indicated that the event was not hostile. In fact, he has forwarded on his social media the family members of Garza supporters were taking pictures with the motorcycle group. You know, it was a friendly banter, and they were on the kids wanted to be on the bikes and take pictures with them. So, and he's happy to talk to reporters. I have his cell if anyone needs that. I think it's really important to say this. I want to remind everyone, Garza is not the victim here. Instead, we have community members rightly outraged that this district attorney has used this office for political activism instead of relentless pursuit of justice for victims. When a DA tries to become the victim instead of listening to real victims, we have the wrong DA in office. Michael.
First of all, our heart goes out to every one of the victims that stands here. This is an extremely clear example, multiple examples as to how, under our current leadership, the criminal justice system in Travis County is broken. It's broken to such a point that criminals are indeed given a higher priority than the families that suffer at the hands of criminals. What's going on is not only wildly inappropriate, but is truly tragic. The fact that we have allowed this to become the case is a sad testament to the state of public safety here in Travis County. But today is all about these stories. And perhaps even more sad is that they are not alone. There are more that have similar stories, that have similar cases, where they have been treated the same way, where they have been re-victimized because of policies within our district attorney's office. We are headed down a road where more and more people will be standing here in the future under the current policies that we have. This is not something that we can continue to afford to do. And it is a tragic injustice towards the families that truly have to deal with this. It was said before, but nobody knows when their family could be next. We need to be willing to stand up and try to make every effort to avoid this from happening again in the future. Again, I applaud each and every person that's willing to do this. This in and of itself takes a great amount of bravery to stand up here and repeat these stories and to explain what happened to them. But these are very real examples. This is not theoretical. This is not an experiment. These are real lives that we're talking about, and we can't keep doing it.
That's the end of the press conference. If any of you guys want to interview any of the victims, I think most of them are available for private interviews. Thank you.